column How to Write 2,500 Words in an Hour Part 1 today. I'll start with a reader's question that reached me: 2,500 words in an hour. How do you do that? Mind. Writing 2,500 words in an hour comes down to almost 0.7 words per second. Yes, it's possible. How? That's why I'm writing this series of articles in the form of a weekly column. Why? Because the full text would be far too long for just one article, and I don't feel like trimming it down too much would get lost. To make it more enjoyable to read, I had this idea: split it up and publish it weekly. That way, the reader can ease into the associative flow of reading without feeling overwhelmed by a bulky article. What I mean is drowning in details, because everything would be laid out in one piece. Now, the reader has a week to recover. 700 words per article is plenty. Personally, I don't want to write articles like 3 Steps to a Successful Writing Career anymore. Why? Those kinds of pieces only work on the surface. In the end, inspiration does more to get you typing than instructions like do this and that. Instead, I'd rather share from my own experience what have I tried, what worked, what didn't. I find that far more interesting and stimulating. That's also the original spirit and atmosphere of blogging: the flow of thoughts, the unfinished, the process of discovery. So now, there's a series on writing, fresh every week. So how do I manage to write 2,500 words in an hour? There's Chris Fox's book Write 5,000 Words Per Hour, Write Faster, Write Smarter. That could be a first step, but it doesn't have to be. Besides, 5,000 words per hour isn't even desirable. It becomes an obsession. 5,000 words per hour means a novella in 10 hours. Suddenly, Wells feels within reach. Yeah, it's that kind of book. One of my theses in this column will be: convince your subconscious that it wants to write 2,500 words per hour, then it'll happen on its own. This series is really about motivation in general. So even if you don't necessarily want to write 2,500 words, you might still find something useful here, especially on the topic of unconscious motivation and how crucial it is. At least, I've never read anything about it elsewhere. Here, you'll get something new. Your unconscious mindset is the key to every goal, not the conscious one, provocatively speaking. For the impatient, here's the summary: writing, especially fast writing, requires practice. Ideally daily. No amount of wanting or wishing will help. Doing is the magic word, so it has to be fun, or you need to find something you feel must be said. Your mindset has to make it feel effortless, inevitable, and that's where unconscious attitude comes in. More on that later. First, a personal anecdote. In my early school years, a long time ago, people said I had a reading and spelling weakness. Actually, that term came later. It sounds more forgiving than the word they used back in my day: dyslexia. Being dyslexic put you on the same level as an idiot. That hit like a punch between the ribs. I still remember being laughed at by the class while teachers loomed threateningly over me and my mother. Your son, what did that good woman do? She took her son aside every afternoon for 3 hours and drilled reading and writing. For a dyslexic, letter by letter reading doesn't work. Honestly, I still find it illogical, especially when you speak multiple languages. Alphabets vary by country. Back to my childhood, where I had to memorize every word individually, like Chinese characters. In China, there are no dyslexics. But learning all those symbols isn't easy, it takes forever. That's how it was for me in German. Of course, it's not exactly the same. Over the years, I developed some letter-by-letter reading, but I also kept the ability to absorb text visually. That's why reading goes faster now. Maybe writing, too. By the end of my school career, I was writing in-depth articles for the student paper quickly. A huge thanks here to my mother in heaven. Without her, none of this would have happened. No one else would have had the energy to teach me. She was also the one who gave me my first typewriter back, when those things still had a satisfying clack to the keys. Dyslexics carry a deep feeling of being misunderstood. Maybe that's why I see things differently now, or why the outsider's position feels normal, not frightening. Really, everyone lives their own life, not one for others. For me, it was the desperate need for self-validation, denied in those early school years. And for a child, that was terrifying. Society's norms rushed past me, a chaotic swell before my wide eyes like the green-on-black chaos of a Matrix screensaver. Incomprehensible. I had to learn. Dyslexia taught me systems aren't set in stone. If someone says you can't write, ignore it. Find your own way. That's why I've internalized the Bible verse of the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. As a mantra. What I'm saying is skills grow through joy but also through struggle. Someone who always had it easy might just stay content as they are. That's most people. Though I see it the other way, most people are dissatisfied because expectations and reality don't match. That's the perfect recipe for unhappiness. Next time, we'll talk about self-perception. The most important question in the world. Why do I want this? Why do I want to write a lot? Sure, it could be useful. Running a marathon sounds good too. I once dreamed of doing the Ironman. Dreamed. But utility thinking only gets you so far, like picking products in a supermarket that promise to make life easier, or dreaming about them. It's about what do you want, and writing has to come from within. Homework, spend a week thinking about why you want to write more and faster. If you do want to write more every day, spend 5 minutes typing or scribbling as many words as tumble through your head. Create a dedicated file for it or buy a notebook and pen.